What did we talk about last week? Jeopardy. What did we talk about last week? Those who were here.
Right intention.
Right intention.
Daily sitting.
Daily sitting, good. So, well, you're giving me just points, right? So the whole topic was on the 8 mindful steps to happiness. And we were on second step, which is the skillful intention. You guys are very familiar with me. Why do I not use right or wrong, evil or good or bad? Why is that? So you really don't know me very well.
That's judgmental.
Yeah, very judgmental, and also there is a duality in there. A duality that is very judgmental. But whereas skillful or wholesome, unwholesome is just a description of whatever that follows that word, right? So remember, we actually talked about skillful intention last week. And what are the 3 skillful intentions that the Buddha said? Picture it out from your head. The first one is the intention of promises? Huh? Harmlessness. That's the third one. I haven't come to that yet. Sorry. Renunciation. Very good. Yes. So we did talk about renunciation. And skillful intention, that's the first one is the intention of renunciation. And the second one? Oh, you're looking at your notes, eh? Well, at least you've got a note there, all right. The intention of goodwill. Yeah, okay. Somebody who doesn't have the notes, remember the third one is the intention of harmlessness. And we know that actually these 3 actually counteract the other unskillful 3, right? And the first one, we talked about the intention of renunciation last week. So we went through quite thoroughly on that. Now we go to intention of goodwill. You can actually give a word goodwill to goodwill is metta. So remember that A with the hyphen on the top if you're writing a Pali word. Metta, that means loving kindness, goodwill. So we are, as I said in meditation, we are so always dealing with things in a very ineffective way. And there are actually 2 ways of dealing with ill will very effectively. One way is we yield to it. We yield to it and we express this ill will, bodily, verbally, mentally. Don't we all do that? Sometimes or another, okay? And this approach, in a way, it releases the tension, right? When you punch somebody in the nose, oh, you feel so good. Even though your fist hurt, but you feel that so good because there's a release of tension. And if you verbally abuse, blah, 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 all these words, you release some of your tension that got built up inside by the ill will, and it helps to drive that anger out of your system. But this poses a lot of problem. Name some of the problems that it will pose, please.
Bad karma in the future.
Yeah, bad karma in the future. Yeah.
And it continues the cycle.
It continues as a cycle. Yes. And it will actually, it breeds more and more resentment. It provokes a lot of retaliation, right? If you hit somebody got to be very, very kind in order not to hit you back, right? Or got to be very limp in order to be unable to hit you back. Or that somebody is very compassionate, so he embraces your fist. But that's very rare. I remember my teacher told me, this shaven head is actually a very superstitious thing in the Chinese tradition. People don't like seeing us with all the bald hair. You have a problem when you go to Hong Kong. If you shave the back and you go out on the first day of Chinese New Year, the people step on the back of your head. Oh yeah, they do, because they think this is empty. There's no hair, right? So it's bad luck to see bald head. A monk and nun, not just like householder. Householder is okay, but a nun and a nun or monk, because we renounce it and they thought we give up everything and it's bad luck. So I remember my teacher told me many years ago, he was very young at that time, almost 70 years ago. So on the first day of Chinese New Year, he didn't know that the Hong Kong Chinese people hated this bald head. So in our tradition, on the first day of New Year, we always go to our elders to visit them. So he went to his elder monk to visit them. So he got onto a tram, an electric tram, and he was going to get off, and he waited at the door to get off. Somebody stabbed him from the back on his forehead, and he looked back and he said, "Who stabbed me?" He was very young at that time. I think he was in his 20s or early 30s, and he all of a sudden that old habit come in, that habit of aversion come in, and he wanted to turn his back and just say something or do something, but all this mindfulness just come right back on, and he maintained his composition. He contained himself, he contained his temper, and he just looked back. And that man was, saying bad words and all that. So one of his teachings I remember vividly was never go out on the first day of Chinese New Year. But of course now has changed a little bit with a lot of monks and nuns reaching out to societies and communities. They really start to understand the Buddhist teaching is actually not superstitious. It actually is quite scientific. So people changing their attitude. So that that slap on the head actually helped that person to get his anxiety, his anger, this fear out. Right? He was fearful that he saw a monk and he was, unfortunate. It was unlucky. So he got it out of his system. So it actually poses a lot of problems. It can poison a relationship. It can poison a human relationship. It can even poison a human to animal relationship, right? If you have a lot of anger, sometimes you live alone and you sort of get it onto your cat or your dog, you hit them on the face and you kick them, whatever. So it generates, as Nora said, it generates a lot of future unwholesome karma. And then the other approach is we suppress, we repress them, and this one is also fail to dispel that destructive force of ill will. It merely turn it around and push it inward. And as I have seen so many, when I teach, I've seen so many people, because of their younghood or childhood abuse, family abuse, whatever abuse, that they actually turn their anger, turn their ill will inward and hide it inside. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, when they grow up, it actually affect the whole view, affect their whole attitude. And that anger gets stored in there, sometimes could be so destructive, and it could really, hurt someone. So be careful. That's why that mindfulness starts to set. If you have mindfulness, if it comes in at that time, then you will be able to deal with it rather than suppress it or express it. Either way, it's going to hurt you and hurt others. Only dealing with it in a mindful way is the wise way. Okay, so remember that mindfulness is very important. So metta is the medicine for neutralizing this ill will. So metta, remember that metta is a Pali word, right? And in the English translation is loving kindness or loving friendliness, or but that love is not it's not just a sentimental goodwill, or it's just you're so good, so I'll be good to you, or it is a sensual love that which is derived from craving, or a kind of love that actually arises from a personal affection. Okay, I like you, so I have this love for you, and that is not metta. That is not metta. Metta and compassion is different. Okay, so metta is loving kindness. Compassion is karuna. Karuna is actually helping people to remove their sufferings. Metta is bringing joy and love to beings. So there are two parts to this thing. People normally say loving kindness, including the compassion. They think compassion equals to loving kindness, and no, loving kindness is something of its own, and compassion is something of its own, because they have different components. But of course, in order to be compassionate, one needs loving kindness, and because one has loving kindness, one is compassionate. Okay, so either one of them is in the other thing. All right. So this is, as I said, just not a sentimental goodwill. It is actually a deep, very deep inner feeling. It's characterized by like spontaneous warmth and love. It is not just something that can be created. Okay, so when you are next to a person who has a lot of loving kindness, you can actually feel their vibrations. They're very subtle, very warm, very grounding, very soft vibrations. Or you feel very warm. I remember one time we were doing metta, and after that metta session, and one of the students said, "Wow, it was so cold. That Dharma hall was so cold," and he said, "I feel so warm all of a sudden." That warm is not that hot flush that we all experience. Okay, it's actually warmth that is so comfortable. Like having a hot pack in the middle of a cold spell. He said, "Oh wow, that's just a lot of metta flowing by." People giving out all this metta, and it's actually affect the whole atmosphere, the whole vibration, the whole energy in the room got changed. So loving kindness. So it's a deep inner feeling for the well-being and happiness of yourself and of others. Okay, so a lot of time we sort of like say, I love you and whatever, and people sort of think I love somebody because why? Because somebody gives us security, somebody gives us good feelings, somebody gives us this pleasure, or it belongs to the family, so we have to love them, although we don't like them. We have to love them, right? I have heard that I love my father, but I don't like him. I said, You love your brother, but you don't like him? Oh, okay, all right, no problem. As long as you are able to love your parents, it's okay whether you don't like him or like them or not. So it's actually it's kind of funny, you know. So this kind of love is actually an affectionate love. It's really not a true loving kindness. Okay, loving kindness is you. It doesn't matter whether you like or you don't like. You still love that person.
Sister,
Hey,
could one say that effective social action is loving kindness?
no,
No, not necessarily.
not necessarily.
No.
Somebody could be very, very effective socially, but they do not necessarily have this loving kindness,
Mhm.
because loving kindness is unconditional.
Conditional.
Unconditional,
Unconditional.
yeah. And so social effectiveness sometimes is very conditional.
Yeah, it is.
I think sometimes could be, not is, but could be very, very conditional. So I think it's quite different, okay?
It sounds cold-blooded.
Yes, yeah. So that affectionate and sensual love actually has a very strong limitation. It can really transcend this level of attachment. Okay, but with loving kindness, it diffuses to everywhere. So as I just said just now, all right, and it does not hinge on any particular relationships. And we, in order to develop this metta, is actually not very easy. Not very easy. As I have taught actually metta to a lot of people, and people say, I said you have to ask for forgiveness, or you have to forgive people of doing harm and hurt to you. They said, no way, it's difficult. Can be. I can send them metta. Yes, it's very difficult to send people's metta when you don't have metta for yourself. When you don't know how to love yourself, when you don't love yourself enough, that actually you don't have that habit of, you don't have that ability to love others. It's very difficult. So metta is actually, you really need to intentionally and deliberately cultivate it. In the beginning, it's just like verbal pronunciation, like, oh, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, or may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful. But gradually, when you start to do this inner work, when you start to do some really inner introspection, and start to cultivate this mindfulness, and start to realize the importance of loving yourself, because you want to be happy. And because you want to be happy, and you know the importance of being happy, and so you say, oh, I want to be happy. I think everybody wants to be happy. So you start to have that empathy. If you start to have that empathy, then you will be able to start to cultivate metta for others. Until then, it's just a deliberate cultivation or deliberate development. So metta is unconditional, as I said. There is no conditions attached to it, and there is no expectations whatsoever. Okay, don't expect anything in return for the metta that you have given up. And also, the metta should have no boundaries. Oh, I only metta to you, human being, and I would not have metta to other human beings in the other piece, in the other land, or in other place, or whatever. No, metta doesn't have any boundary at all. It's a universal love. It's a universal loving kindness that doesn't have any racial boundary, nationality boundary, or religious boundary, or physical boundaries. Okay? You understand what do I mean by physical boundaries? Hmm?
Not really.
Not really.
Let it be an expert.
I wondered if, could you call it energy?
Metta?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is sort of like an energy because it comes from here. And it's not something visual. It's not something that has a form. It's actually a thought. A thought guided by loving kindness. Okay? And that thought actually is an energy. That's why it's so difficult, because we are not used to cultivate that kind of thought. So we have to deliberately try to cultivate that kind of thought. Okay? And when that kind of thought you become so good in cultivating it, and you start to feel that love for yourself. Oh, I really need to love myself. Oh, I start to love myself lately. Because I was so busy and I was so tired, and said, geez, you really need to slow down. And I said to myself, you really need to slow down. So sometimes this morning I told Eva, I went to bed at 10:30 last night because I was so tired. After the whole day's work, I was so tired, and I went to bed at 10:30, but I had so much to do. I said, no, go to bed. Go to bed, have a good sleep. So, you start to realize that you need to look after yourself. And that's already starting on this path of metta. Okay? But you looking after yourself is not to sort of like, what do I say? Making excuses for you to sort of become lazy or go and have fun all the time and not working. No, not like that. Okay, you have to be genuinely
Not indulging.
yes, not indulging. Okay, so this actually, that when you start to develop this metta, this loving kindness inside this mind, when you really reach a level, it becomes spontaneous and natural. It just arises like that. It just arises like that. It just comes up like that. So it becomes spontaneous, and it does. You don't need to intentionally do it. When you become so used to it, and it's already become a part of you, this loving kindness thing. So, because the Buddha said, we cannot command the mind to love spontaneously. Oh, you love him, you love her. No, you cannot command the mind. The mind has an option. The mind will choose. It knows how to choose. So you have to actually train it. Okay. So you have to show the mind how to actually develop that quality. So this metta, when metta meditation is actually a very, very important part of meditative practice, whether it's in the Theravada or whether it's in the Mahayana. In the Theravada we call it metta bhavana. Bhavana is cultivation, metta, loving kindness, the cultivation of loving kindness. In the Mahayana tradition, we call it sharing the merits. Okay, dedication of the merits. But in the Theravada, we call it loving kindness. We're sending this love and kindness. So when we want to cultivate this metta, we have to check ourselves first. Okay, you remember the meditation course you have set with me or either with Vipassana is, after that you have to check yourself whether you are experiencing a lot of physical difficulties where that actually disturb the balance of your mind. And because of these physical difficulties, your mind may actually experience a lot of negativities because you don't like the pain and you dislike the cramp, you worry about this headache. All these are negativities of the mind. And if you have such negativities of the mind, then it is impossible for you to give out loving kindness. Okay? So firstly is the physical part. And then the second part is the mental part. You have to check your mind. Okay, am I balanced? Or am I going through a lot of difficulties, emotional difficulties? And if yes, then you cannot practice metta. Why? As Sue said, metta is actually an energy, it's a thought guided meditation. And if at that time your mental thought and your physical body is actually having a lot of challenges, and your whole body will be actually experiencing a lot of difficulties, at that time the energy will not be a loving kindness energy. So if you allow this thought to actually push those energy out of your body, from your body to outside, or to whoever that you think about at that time, you're actually giving out negativities. Okay? So that's why it's very important to check oneself when you need to practice metta bhavana, is you check whether you are physically not feeling any difficulties. If yes, then you relax yourself before you practice metta bhavana, and then you check mentally. Okay. And where do you practice metta bhavana? Is it just after meditation? No. Metta bhavana could be cultivated anywhere. You drive. I always, when I drive along the highway, I see a truckload of pigs going to the slaughterhouse, and immediately I would just send out, this metta, may you be happy and please forgive these ignorant human beings who consume your meat to sustain their own body. That I ask for forgiveness, and it doesn't matter whether they get it or not. At least at that time, we're trying to cultivate good thoughts and goodwill for these pigs. So this is actually a purely a mental and psychological work. It's entirely free from theological stuff, entirely free from metaphysical stuff. It's entirely psychological and pure and mental work. Okay, this metta bhavana. And if we start to see that we want to be happy and we want others to be happy, then it's easier to cultivate this loving kindness. But if you say, I don't want to be happy, I want to be a sulky person all the way throughout my life, then it's impossible for you to actually develop any loving kindness at all. Right? Okay? But some people really do. Some people really don't want to be a happy person, because they don't realize that happiness is so happy, right? So if you could. But the most important person in this world to develop loving kindness to is yourself. Okay? Because once you start to have this loving kindness, then you will start to realize the importance of loving kindness, the importance of happiness in other people. There's this story in the old India that this you remember this. We always talk about going out for alms, right? So we haven't talked about going out for alms for a long time. So this monk always go out for alms, getting of the alms bowl and go out for alms. And this poor old lady and the daughter always waited at the door to give him whatever food that they could afford to give out that day. And this monk always, when he go out, he remembers, especially intentionally remember to stop at that house so that these people could offer him. And one day when he was just round the corner, and he heard this old lady telling the daughter, the old lady actually treated him like his son, and always tell the daughter, said, well, treat this monk as your brother, And so this old lady told the daughter, when your brother come for alms today, so here's the rice, here's the honey, here's the ghee, here's the milk, here's the nuts. So if he comes today, then make sure you cook him a very good meal with all these rice, vegetables, and nuts and milk and everything. So make sure you offer a good meal to him. And the daughter said, Mom, where are you going? Aren't you going to offer him? And she said, no, I'm going into the jungle. I'm going into the forest for a day of meditation myself. And the daughter said, So what are you going to bring if you are leaving all this good food to the brother? The mom said, well, we have leftover rice from last night, and I make a little porridge. I'm going to eat that. And the daughter said, you're going to give all this good food to the brother, and you're going to take just the leftover rice? And she said, yes. So the monk heard it. Just round the corner, he heard it. And he said, wow, these poor people, save everything to offer me. And wow, what kind of merit do I have to deserve their loving kindness? And he said, no, I need to really work hard. So he said, I'm not going out for alms. He went into the forest, he took down his robe, he took down his outside robe, and he sat there, I need to attain my enlightenment. I need to liberate myself until I go out for alms again. He sat there for 1 day and 1 night. 1 day and 1 night. Another day, another night. And then eventually he got his enlightenment. And then he put his robe on again, and then he went out. He went out for alms. And the girl saw him the next day, and she looked at him, and she was surprised to see such a serene and composed person, so calm, so soft, glowing person there. And so she offered all the rice and everything. So at the end of the day, the mom came home, and the mom said, did your brother come? And the daughter said, oh, Mom, I have never seen our brother, glowing in the face and so serene, so calm, and so loving. And the mom said, oh, he's already liberated. And you see, the liberation person has that loving kindness that shows, and also that calmness that shows. And the daughter said, yes, I think he is liberated. And because of the loving kindness that these old lady and the girl showed to the monk, that actually pushed the monk to actually work more diligently, scrupulously, to liberate himself. And by liberating himself, he developed tremendous loving kindness for other beings, and that actually returned back to the family that actually offered him. So loving kindness is not something that is, as I said just now, metaphysical or theological. It's not theory stuff. It's really deep practice. Okay. So, and the mother said to the girl, well, we are fortunate to have such a monk around us, and if we must honor him, we must follow his footsteps. Just like us, when we actually encounter the Buddhist teachings, and we know that the Buddhist teachings are so great and so precious, and in order to honor the Buddha, we must follow his footsteps, walk on the same path as the path that he walked on, right? And so meditate rigorously and practice scrupulously, okay, and liberate yourself from your own miseries. Then you honor your teacher, you honor the Buddha. Okay, so metta. So when you practice metta, the first one, and a lot of people say, I don't know how to extend my feeling of loving kindness towards my enemy. Right? Have you ever thought about that? Loving my enemy? Oh, no way. Come on. How can I love my enemy? He accused me. He struck me. He abused me. How can I love them? Huh? Just let it go. Not easy. Not easy, Maria. Not easy.
It's not a feeling.
So what is it?
It's an intention and it's a choice.
Okay, that's good. Very good too. Anybody else?
You can think of them as, one time they were, maybe
Your enemy
your
too.
child or your mother. Or
Yeah, you
your
exchange
wife.
that. You exchange that position. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, sorry.
Okay, young Bill.
Sometimes I've tried to have to try to gain some insight into why the person had such negativity that made me angry at them, to get compassion, to
Very good.
see their story, see their,
Also, very
Yeah.
good. Bill?
Yes, with the various friendships that have developed over the years, one does find it necessary to know something of the culture and
Yes, it's awesome.
social habits of other countries. Right, currently there's a very nice young lady come into our life, an Estonian. And really, I never knew I'd know so much about Estonia as I learned in the last couple of years, and one realised how passionate their country is to the other person.
Yes, yes, yes.
It really matters.
So actually, there is no real enemy. Why? What makes somebody an enemy to you is not that person, it's his behavior. When he has this greed, aversion, ill will, delusion, ignorance, doubt, everything, his behavior is out of track. That behavior is the enemy. It's not that person. But a lot of time, we think that person is our enemy, so we directed our anger towards him. Right? So we burn the wrong person. we burn wrongly. It's difficult to see, but once you start to see that, you know that person is really harmless. Right? So it's actually the negative mind of that person is causing all that grief for them and for you. So mindfulness, when we have this mindfulness, then we start to say, okay, why he has such negative behavior towards me? What have I done wrong to agitate him? Or starting to see this is a karmic thing. Okay? And I met somebody just lately, and he was in agony because somebody accused him, and there's very bad allegations. And he just couldn't get over that. And I said, you don't need to get over that. All you have to do is to understand the situation. Why there are such allegations against you. And he said, it's a lie. I said, yes, it's a lie now. You can see it's a lie now. But did you see past into the past? Where did that lie come from? That lie come from the past seeds that you have, the past connections that you have with this person. And we don't have this wisdom to see past this lifetime, into the past lifetimes. And you don't know what you have done to that person in the past lifetimes. You must have accused him badly in order for him to accuse you right now. So if you start to see that cycle, if you start to see that connection, that relationship, that whole negativity in you will be all completely melted away. Because you know that you are completely responsible for whatever that is happening right now. And you won't fight. And you won't have that negativity. And all you can do is start to develop that loving kindness for yourself. When you have that loving kindness for yourself, you start to forgive yourself for whatever act that you have done in the past that caused us such grief right now. And then when you have that such enough loving kindness for yourself, then you will start to have loving kindness for that person. When you have loving kindness for that person, then you will start to forgive that person. Whatever allegations, accusations that he has on you. Okay? It is not easy. But remember, only looking at the issue, don't direct it to anybody. If you start to make it personal, it creates so much turmoil. A lot of times we make things too personal, right? And it become a war, a person to a person, a war between two persons, and a war between two nations, right? Because we make it become so personal. So mindfulness actually helps us to understand that state of mind, and understand that nature of that state of mind is not going to last forever. And that state of mind is temporary, is transitory, is impermanent. And we start to, and that state of mind could be corrected, could be adjusted, as long as we are willing to. Okay? So, when we start to understand that nature of existence in that particular moment, we start to realize that also there is such karmic forces in there. If we start to see that, then that mindset could be turned around completely. And your attitude, your behavior towards that person or towards that issue could be completely turned around. Okay? You could completely soften down. And so the second thing is also to how you can actually deal with anger. And metta actually counteract the anger. Remember, anger is a big hurdle. It's a big obstacle for one to develop metta, for one to have loving kindness. When you're constantly angry, it's very difficult to have loving kindness, to develop loving kindness. But I have seen a very angry person just because he believed in me. And I said, you go back and you practice metta. And I practice metta. That person will turn around. He said, are you sure, sister? I said, I am sure, but I don't know whether you are sure. So if you want to try, you could try. He said, I don't think he will change. I said, well, you're already giving out that energy that he will not change. Of course, you're reinforcing that he will not change. But if you start to give out loving kindness, you actually break that ice between you and him. And you put off that fire. And he said, okay, I will try. And 3 weeks later, he said to me, it works. I said, what work? That metta, that loving kindness. I said, yeah. He turned around, completely different demeanor. So it works. It does work. You know, we haven't heard a lot about the Buddha stories. So let us hear a story in the Buddha's day. Buddha never get angry, right? Of course, he is the Buddha. He will never get angry. But that doesn't mean that he won't have stern words or strong words. He will use strong words. He have very stern attitudes sometimes, but that doesn't mean he's angry. Okay. So, and there is this Brahmin used to be very angry about everything, and one day he said, "How come this Buddha doesn't have any anger?" Okay, I'll go and challenge him. I'll go and see how he deal with me. So he came and abusing the Buddha, and the Buddha said, hey, Brahmin, wait. The Brahmin said, okay. And the Buddha said, do you have any families? Do you have any friends? I have family and friends. What's the business with you if I have family and friends? The Buddha said, yes, your family and your friends, they come and visit you. Do they bring a gift? Of course they bring a gift. I bring them gifts, they bring me gift. And Buddha said, okay, Brahmin, you come and visit me. You bring me this gift of anger. You bring me this gift of abusiveness. I don't need this gift. You bring your gift, you take your gifts back. Go, take your gift back. I don't want your gift. The gift stay with you. And the Brahmin was a very, very clever person. And all of a sudden he so wakened. He woke up. He said, oh, this gift of anger, this gift of abusiveness actually stay with me. I have two gifts of abusiveness and two baskets of anger. And he actually completely became a completely different person. And I remember my teacher, there was one teaching that he gave. He said, every morning you woke up and you got up, and after your morning service, and you start to see people, and then you start to address people with a smile. That's nice. That's nice. And then there was a whole bunch of householder there that day. And he said, as householder, you see people, you go and say, good morning, how are you? Ole ho ma, ho ho, that means I'm well. Okay, and then he said, you greet people in the morning. And this householder said to my teacher, oh, you greet people think that you're crazy. People don't greet you back. In a cosmopolitan world, it's like that. In Hong Kong, it's like that. It used to be like that. Now it's a little bit better, but still not so good. And my teacher, you know what he said? He was so wise. He said, you greet people, you ask them how are you, and if they don't greet you, if they greet you, then both of you are well. Each one has one good thing. How are you? I'm well. Each one of you have one. I am well. So if you greet him, how are you? And if he doesn't greet you back, then that I am well, you put it back into your pocket. Then you have two I am well.
I ask people, how are you? And they say, I'm good. And I say, well.
Yeah, you see? So you have two I am well, so, that makes your day, right? You get what he meant? So it was so wise. And so, you don't lose anything. You don't lose anything to be loving kindness, to have loving kindness. You don't lose anything. Actually, you gain things. Okay? So when we deal with this anger is we remember at times we need to know how to restrain ourselves. Okay, I know that I'm angry and it shows on the face. Okay, then showing on the face is the first step, and then the second is you show it through your language. You show it through your actions. If you can restrain yourself, okay, you put out a fist and you restrain and you withdraw that fist. And you were going to abuse verbally and you restrain yourself. You hold back that speech, that abusive speech. And if you're going to show in your face, then you withhold it. You restrain yourself. Okay? That is one practice of mindfulness, how to develop, how to use that mindfulness in counteracting this anger. And also, you reflect, as Bill said, you reflect on the results. Why did he abuse me? Have I done something that agitate him, irritate him or her? If I have not, then I walk away. If I have, then I will go and apologize. But a lot of times when we apologize, we expect people to forgive us. Please, no expectation. If you apologize, then you have done your share. If he does not forgive you, it's his thing, it's not your thing. But if you don't apologize, that is your thing. And it's their thing also. Okay? So you reflect upon the results. Why? And what can I do to rectify this situation? And also is you have to develop patience. A lot of patience. buying time with mindfulness, take a few deep breaths, so you have a distance between yourself and the object where you direct your anger to. You give yourself a little bit more distance. So, okay, so hold the fist. Take a deep breath. Hold the fist. Take a deep breath and release your fist. Within 3 deep breaths, even 1.5. My famous story is 1.5 deep breaths. You release that fist, and you won't express that in that abusive physical language. Okay, and also remember that gifts of anger by the Brahmin. All right, so this is very, very important. How you can actually neutralize this anger. Okay, see if we can finish this harmlessness. This is the 3rd skillful intention. So this is actually a thought also guided by compassion. Compassion is karuna. In Pali terms, it's karuna. That means relieving others of their miseries. Okay, compassion is relieving others of the miseries, and this is actually in the opposition of cruelty, aggressiveness, disrespect, and violent thoughts. And of course, as I said just now, this harmlessness actually complements the quality of metta. Okay, they go parallel. And compassion has this characteristics of helping others to liberate themselves from difficulties, miseries, sufferings. And also this is actually also a practice or a quality that doesn't have any boundary. All right. And this could be also a very, very strong meditative practice. You can start off intentionally in your head, creating a thought of helping yourself to liberate yourself from one particular difficult situation. Or if you see others actually experiencing difficult situation, and you actually put yourself into their shoes, and you create this thought of, may you be liberated from your miseries. May you be free of amity. May you be free of miseries. So you intentionally allow this thought to arise on your mind. Okay, so this is the initial step to cultivate this compassion. And because why? We don't want ourselves to suffer. Similarly, we think the other people don't want to suffer also, right? We put ourselves into other shoes because we don't want to suffer. People also don't want to suffer. So we don't want to do any actions that will cause sufferings in others' lives. All right? So that if you call yourself a compassionate person, then you have to check on your actions, daily actions, whether I'm compassionate, whether I'm causing harm and hurt or difficulties or miseries in others. Living beings, okay, not inanimate things, living beings. So if you have these repeated thoughts over and over again, and then you develop this strong compassion, and if that compassion actually swells from the heart, and when that becomes a habit, you can start spreading it out to others. Okay, and sort of like radiating it out to like circles, like this is me, and then my families, and then my enemies, and then for those people who I don't know, and for all other beings, it's just like circles expanding and extending. Okay, so what kind of sufferings? Remember the first noble truth? There are at least eight types of sufferings, right? the birth, the death, the aging, the illness, separation from your beloved ones, getting what you don't want and not getting what you want, and the attachment to this whole body and all these sufferings. Okay, so those are the basic sufferings that we actually have to start to learn how to see it in daily life, in yourself and in others. And if people are suffering that way, how can I help? How can I help? How can my actions help to relieve such sufferings? And you say, oh, everybody is doing that, I think it's right, it's okay. Then everybody is doing it, so why am I not doing it? It's none of your business. If everybody is doing it. If everybody is killing, and you think that you want to kill, no, don't. It doesn't mean that everybody is doing it, that it doesn't mean that it is right. Okay? So this is also a very strong meditative practice. I want to show you a documentary, but I think it's too cruel to show. But I would like you to go online to look at it yourself. I barely can go through the first 3 minutes, but I eventually watched the whole 12 minutes documentary. It's called Meet Your Meat. Meet your meat. That means meeting the meat that you eat every day, and see how this animal raising business is creating so much cruelty, creating so much miseries in all these other living beings in order to feed us. And if you start to watch that and you start to actually contemplate and reflect, do I really need that? Do I really need to cause so much sufferings in others in order to sustain our physical body? You start to ask that question, rather than just enjoying that sensual pleasures of that 3 inches in your tongue. Too serious. But really, it's horrific to see that, and it's practiced in the West as much as in the East. And it's just not right. I think it's just not right. They don't have any power to resist us. We are the strongest being on earth that can do any harm to anybody. They don't have. It's so horrific, so horrible. But when I watch it, this hardness, this strong feeling here, this heaviness here, which I could hardly generate any metta. I watch it very mindfully, and I'm very, very mindful of my own sensations in here, in this heaviness throughout the whole body, and I knew it was difficult to generate a lot of metta, but I asked for forgiveness, constantly asking for forgiveness of that, all those cruelty on these animals, which are helpless. So mindfulness of skillful actions, skillful intentions. Remember, renunciation, goodwill, harmlessness counteract the 3 other wrong intentions of desire, ill will, and harmfulness. And reflecting upon some of the unwholesome thoughts to understand ourselves thoroughly is also a very, very strong practice that one has to actually take on in their daily life. Why should I complain? Why am I angry with him? Why was he angry with me? Don't think that sitting on a cushion is one life, and going out as cutting up your vegetables, going to teach in school or going to work in school is another life. It's one life. The mindfulness that you develop by sitting on the cushion has to be implemented, integrated into your life. Otherwise, it's just nothing. It's useless, waste of time. Okay? So if you could start to integrate that mindfulness into your life and start to reflect upon all your actions, I'm sure eventually you will be able to change and correct yourself. and the thought process could also be corrected, could also be changed. Okay, so, and this mindfulness help us actually to address any arising thoughts and not to follow and not to allow them to be multiplied. Okay, so I'll do this mindfulness of skillful intention next week. Otherwise, we are running too late.